Okay, so for those of you that don't already know me, my name's Sarah Downs and I'm a co-founding director of Doqaru. I've been working with companies for the last 8 years in the oil and gas supply chain, helping them with their sales and business development strategy. And obviously a lot of that has been around relationships. So I'm really passionate about the importance of relationships in business. And at Doqaru, it's really a key part of the work we're doing with our clients. Yukemi Otaru is also on the call. She's my the other co-founding director in the business. Many of you may know her as well, and she'll be available at the end in the Q&A. So I would like to now introduce Adam, who is on the call with us from Introhive. I'm going to turn my camera off now. I'll let Adam introduce himself and then run us through who Introhive are and what we really need to be thinking about when it comes to relationships. So over to you, Adam.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Really appreciate the brief introduction. This isn't the first time that I will have addressed some of you. Sarah and Yukemi very kindly invited me to speak on a panel around sales strategy in March, in the first ever DoqaruCon, which was a real privilege. So hopefully this isn't the first time some of you have come across me and Introhive. But to give you a little bit of background on myself, I've spent sort of the last 15 years working in various types of business development roles in and around the sales and marketing arena, focusing on CRM, customer relationships. I've worked for small businesses, I've worked for large businesses, and I guess the common theme that has played a huge part in my career and my development has been the idea that relationships matter. I've worked with businesses that have been founded on the basis of outstanding relationships. I've worked with businesses that leverage technology to help enhance those customer relationships in the B2C space. And also now, sort of for the last sort of 12, 18 months with Introhive, it very much focused on helping companies really understand and measure the strengths of their business-to-business relationships. I come from sort of working in many sectors. I've spent sort of 4 or 5 years working heavily in the tech sector, and more recently I've sort of branched out into the oil and gas space. I'm not an oil and gas expert, so to speak, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to partner with Sarah and Yukemi at Doqaru, because they will help to bridge some of the technical gaps that exist in my knowledge base, and it's a partnership that's working really well so far. So what is Introhive? Who are we? Why and how? What's our ethos in relationships? Before I dive into this slide, to give you a bit of background, Introhive was founded back in 2012 in Canada, in New Brunswick. It was founded on a simple idea that companies didn't really have, once companies get to a certain size and a certain scale, companies didn't have a visibility of their relationships. They didn't understand who knew who was connected, what was the current level of engagement with your customers, and what was the strength of your relationships, both at an individual level, so buyer to salesperson, or what an account level, so company to customer. They also struggled to understand how they could strengthen their position. You know, how do you replicate some of the successes that you're having with your really good customers and turn, you know, not so good relationships into really strong relationships? And conversely, you know, how is that relationship trending over time as we go through cycles of business, as we go through, you know, different project work and different phases of implementation of projects? How is that relationship trending, and who currently is engaging with whom, and what are those activities are underway? So these are all sorts of questions and sorts of of points that we help companies understand. And how do we do that? Well, if you think about the way that a company communicates with the outside world, pretty much every engagement that you as salespeople or managers or leaders or wherever it is you're working within your organization, you'd be very, very hard pushed in this day and age to have an engagement with anyone within your customer network without that engagement leaving a digital footprint. So if you think about every email that you send, every phone call that you make, every meeting that you book within your calendar, all of those things are leaving digital footprints. They're leaving little nuggets of information that, if harnessed correctly, can actually provide the visibility to really understanding and managing your customer relationships. And as organizations grow, and not just grow in terms of headcount, but also grow in numbers of offices, in terms of diversifying their services, in terms of having regional offices and having a global footprint, it becomes harder and harder for teams to have that visibility and have that 360-degree view or customer view of what's going on within their business. And as I said before, by analyzing the data, the digital information, the digital footprint of everything that's going on within your organization, companies can actually, for the first time, start to have real visibility of their relationships and actually start to leverage that data to really drive business growth and driving business growth right now. We're in an immediate form of disruption with obviously what's going on with COVID-19, but driving new business from existing customers where your relationships are strong is far easier than creating net new relationships. And I'll come on to a bit more about that in a second. But what is this relationship? What is this network? What is understanding this data the key to? Well, it's the key to driving business strategy. Companies for the first time have the ability to segment clients based on how strong their relationship is. They can plan, they can align resources to those accounts. They can use the data within the of those relationships to help drive growth. Referrals are one of the fastest closing lead sources, and they're also more likely to close than other traditional net new leads. So how do we understand where we can go to get these referrals? It's really important for sales and marketing alignment, team collaboration, account planning. How do you get marketing returns? Are you even able as a business to communicate effectively with your customers? What does your customer database look like? Is the data that you currently hold accurate? Who's responsible for maintaining that? All of those things are questions that customers should be asking themselves right now in order to effectively communicate through this crisis. And then finally, it's the key to improving client visibility. By understanding everything that's going on, by tracking all these activities and all these engagements, it actually provides that 360-degree customer view. So when we're trying to provide, in times of disruption, when we're trying to provide better experience for customers, we're trying to ensure that the relationships are good, so we're not losing revenue. Having that 360-degree view is really, really important. And also understanding, where can you retain clients, or where you need to focus if perhaps the relationship isn't trending in a positive direction. All sorts of questions that can be answered by having complete and accurate visibility of this data. So obviously we are living in challenging times. There's no ignoring the fact that we are in this COVID crisis, and virtually all businesses are experiencing significant revenue declines in the short term. the nature of the crisis has limited types of activities. You know, you can no longer turn up, you know, you can no longer do events, you can no longer go and see new customers. You know, all your you know, business development activities all needs to be driven off your existing customer data. So as a result, companies are looking to mitigate revenue loss by driving things like ABM, which is account-based marketing. So making sure that your email campaigns, your webinars, you know, we're sat on a webinar right now. All of these are effective ways that companies can mitigate losing revenue because they don't have the ability to attend events and go and meet customers face to face. But all of these digital marketing, digital activations, they all thrive, they all live and breathe off data and accurate data. And that's again where Introhive can really help drive, you know, accuracy, drive quantity of data. And I'll touch on some examples as we go into the webinar. And actually leading companies are optimizing these tactics, right? They're using their relationships to increase win rates, deal size and retention, and they're ensuring completeness and accuracy of contact data. Other challenges that I haven't mentioned on this slide sort of exist around the idea that, you know, that 360-degree view that we took before. You know, there is no secret that customers, also companies, are putting their employees on furlough, or maybe even in some case making redundancies. So how, as an organization, do you have visibility of what's going on? How do you succession plan? How do you achieve more with less? How do you try and maintain those revenue streams with fewer salespeople? And all of those things are sort of sources of competitive advantage that Introhive brings. And why are companies you turning to relationship selling? Why should you be thinking about leveraging your person-to-person network? Well, actually, you know, the statistics show that 5 times more executives are 5 times more likely to engage via warm introduction. You know, if you take a step back and think about, you know, how we behave as consumers, you know, we don't go on hotel websites to get a picture of what the hotel is telling me. We go to TripAdvisor. I want to understand what people like me are saying about the you know, the product or service that I'm about to buy. I want those recommendations in order to make those decisions, and that speeds up the buying cycle, but it also makes it more likely to close. We know 84% of buying processes start with that referral, and those leads are converting at a much higher rate as well. And it's actually also noted that vendors with a higher customer engagement score achieve higher share of wallet, higher sales, and higher profitability. So things that companies should be thinking about in order to drive this idea of relationship and drive these warm referrals is how do you collaborate organizationally? How do you find the right introductions based on your known network? Do you even know your known network? Where is that information kept? How do you leverage that relationship capital to grow revenue with your existing clients? You know, there's statistics that suggest that you're 80% more likely to sell to an existing customer than you are to a net new customer. And how do you maintain that client health and reduce, you know, as much as we want to be driving, you know, new business, it's really, really important in times of crisis to reduce churn and make sure that we're keeping the back door closed. And I think that to speak on this slide, you know, your data is not as clean as you think. You know, many companies turn to a CRM system or have implemented CRM systems in order to drive, in order to be that single source of truth or that home for your customer information. But actually what companies are finding is that 58% of contacts in their databases are incorrect or incomplete. And that actually, you know, 80 to 90% of relationships were missing. So how do you know? You might have a contact sat in a CRM system, but how do you know who's connected to them? What does that contact information and what does that contact data actually mean? And then in a lot of cases, 20% of senior contacts were missing, including C-suite, many of the C-suite. So with that in mind, I want to take the opportunity just to talk about this idea of data delta. You know, what are companies missing out? What are companies missing out from when they look at their CRM systems? You know, where are the gaps? What's not happening? And talk a little bit around where Introhive can help bridge those gaps. So this is actually data that we've seen from a customer of Introhive's in the UK. They're a professional services firm. They have, as we can see on the right-hand side here, 2,500 CRM licenses. Within those 2,500 CRM licenses, they have approximately exactly 257,000 contacts, of which 50,000 of those, nearly 20%, actually had missing email addresses. They had no visibility of who knows who, and they had lots and lots of users with access to not great information. And despite, you know, I would say that actually across all the companies that I talk with, that's actually quite a healthy CRM. You know, they have robust processes in place. They have a great number of contacts in place, and actually the missing email addresses isn't too bad. This looks like a pretty healthy CRM account. But when they came to us asking if we could help support them, they started working with us on a limited user base. So we targeted 250 of these CRM users. And by listening to that digital footprint, by taking the data that their employees were creating on a daily basis, just by going about the way they worked, we were able to uncover lots and lots of missing data and lots of gaps in that data. So for example, we uncovered 67,000 contacts from these 250 people alone that didn't exist inside CRM. You know, when you think about the importance of communicating to your customers in times of crisis and ensuring that you have accurate ways of getting to them, this is really, really, really important. Interestingly enough, over 10% of those actually existed at the C-level. You know, that is a huge amount of position. You know, when you're connected at the C-level, you know, your relationships are much more sticky. And it's not that companies are not connected, they just don't have the visibility in order to be able to manage that information and act on it in a specific way. We were able to remove the problem that they had with missing email addresses. So Introhive, when we go in and create contacts within CRM, as a minimum, you would need first name, last name, and email address to do so. So we're able to mop up all of those from, as I said before, from that existing digital footprint. We're able to mop up all of those email addresses and automate that entry to make sure that the companies had all the information that they needed and were actually able to communicate with their customer database. And on top of that, we're able to provide this idea of relationship intelligence. So we know who knows who. What, you know, contact records that exist within CRM are great, but what do they actually mean? How, you know, I might be trying to target John Smith, who's is working in a specific division of a customer of ours out in Houston. What does that mean to me other than a name and an email address? Not a lot. But if I know who knows John, how well they're connected, and what was the last activities that were happening with John, then I have I'm armed with much more information and a much more powerful set of tools to go and open that relationship and begin starting to sell to John myself. And that's really where the power of Introhive comes in. So that's what I wanted to cover off on today's webinar. It's just hopefully it's given you some insight, a little bit into Introhive, but a little bit as well into what's important with in times like this, how you can use some of your existing relationships to drive revenue. And yeah, I mean, Sarah, do you want to start up the Q&A? Is there anything that you'd like to ask, having just been through that presentation?
I think I've heard it a few times now, and from seeing it working live time with clients, I guess I'm lucky that we've got a bit more insight. But I think for me, when I first learned about Introhive, it was before COVID-19. And I remember just thinking to myself, I wish I'd known this about this back in 2015 at the start, of the last oil and gas downturn, because many of the challenges, that businesses had then was not understanding the relationships they already had in place. And then when all the merger and acquisition started, is, what are they getting? And then when you're bringing 2 or 3 businesses together that are, sales offices across the world, how do you really track that? So I just wondered if you could touch on the use of Introhive in that more, I guess, M&A space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the mergers, when you look at a balance sheet, the revenue that the company is bringing in is only as good as the strength of the relationships that company holds with its customers. Natural churn of customers is a common thing in every business, right? But when you're purchasing a company or you're looking to acquire a company, if you had actual insight that was backed on data to be able to say that these revenue streams, this is the state of the company relationships, this is how strong those relationships were, then I think that is a real asset. And we have some M&A acquisition use cases that are where we've been able to go into companies and really provide that actual relationship intelligence and actually in some cases increase the value of a business because the relationships are solid, the strength of those relationships are solid. I think on the other side of that, there's how do companies actually migrate data? How do they merge companies? How do you in any merger and acquisition, there might be a trimming down of resources because multiple jobs can be done by single individuals where perhaps there were 2 prior to merger and acquisition. So I think being able to use that relationship intelligence to identify, who might be the best person to fit that role, who holds the best relationships with the customer, so we can put the customer at the front of mind. And then finally, how do we migrate that data and migrate those systems? In a very, very short space of time, Introhive has the ability to pull data out of CRM and push it back in. So there's lots of different use cases in the M&A space that we're able to help with.
I think the time saving and efficiencies, like you said, the ability to pull the data out and push it back in. The amount of sales directors that we speak to as Doqaru, we're spending a fortune every year on a CRM, but we're just not getting the value because people don't want to sit or don't feel they have time to sit inputting the data.
Yeah,
I think it's a big problem. It's not that CRM software is not good. It's that balance between what does the software do and what do your people have to do. That's a huge benefit.
That's absolutely right. I think that CRM it's a great tool, right? But CRM should in a perfect world provide tons and tons and tons of value. It provides more value for senior leaders and management than it does the end user. But it's ultimately entirely reliant on that end user spending hours and hours of his week inputting that data. And I think there's lots of problems with that. One, you've got very, very highly paid salespeople doing ultimately admin. You've got when they could be doing revenue generating activities. You've got the inconsistency that comes with people who, you know, are not incentivized to keep CRM tidy, who are not incentivized to use it. But you've also got the fact that because there are so many barriers to entry at that end user level, it then ultimately, it doesn't provide the value back to the senior management team who want to run their business off clean data. So what we've been able to do is really kind of remove that burden altogether by taking that data that already exists within your organization and automating the entry of that into CRM. You know, salespeople can literally just focus on opportunity management. They can focus on speaking with customers. And what we're also very good at, Sarah, is actually driving that data back to the end user from CRM. And that relationship intelligence is at their fingertips when they need it. You know,
want to give an example of that, just for those on the call?
Yeah. So
if I'm going to a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah. So for example, if you if you're going to a meeting tomorrow, Introhive, because we're connected to the exchange, we understand the meetings that you're booking. We will know that you might have a meeting with me at Introhive tomorrow, and at 7:30 a.m. we'll send you what's called a pre-meeting digest. And that pre-meeting digest can pull information from all kinds of different places. It pulls it from Introhive, it can pull information from the CRM, it can pull information from open source widgets. If you're a member of the EIC, it can pull things like DataStream. And it provides that rich intelligence, everything that you need to know as a sales professional before going into that meeting. You know, what's going on in your company, you know, who's having conversations with these people that you're meeting, in this case me, where are your strongest relationships lie with these people in my company, so that all that information is there. You know, we can even pull in things like billing information, we can pull in contractual information, that relationship intelligence. So everything is there ready for you to go. And there's two things. It makes you more prepared as a salesperson, and it allows you to save time, right? Though, you know, prepping for meetings, if you're doing 10, 15, 20 meetings a week, you know, we're reducing, you know, by at least half the amount of time that you have to spend prepping. But also from a company point of view, and if you're a revenue leader point of view, it's providing that joined up experience for the customer, because you have this visibility. You know, no longer is it okay in the world that, you know, I don't know what, you know, my team in North America are doing with a customer, because we have the information there. You know, we live in this digitized world where we have the most amazing experiences as consumers, and it's really driving the expectation in the B2B space. So, you know, customer experience is a huge differentiator for businesses across the board.
Roberto has a question. Roberto, we can answer on here. If you'd like to come on camera and ask Adam and give a bit of background of what you want to see and maybe why, that may help others.
Hi, Sarah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. Hi, Roberto.
Hi, Adam. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I do not have a camera, unfortunately, at the moment, because my computer is behind my screen anyway. Well, I was just listening to Adam, and I got curious about how one of these pre-meeting briefing documents you're describing looks like. I work for a large organization, as you both know, Baker Hughes, and it's hard to keep track of who's meeting who, right? So I think this could be quite useful. But I was just curious to see, you know, if I had a meeting tomorrow at Doqaru, right? What kind of information I would be expecting and how it would be delivered, right? Instead of just a description, if you have something you can maybe circulate later as an example, that'd be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to circulate an example after. The pre-meeting digest comes to you just as a normal email would. It's built on a kind of an open API framework, so you can actually pull any open source information that you want. So we start off very broad, talking about company news, talking about, you know, anything that our sort of search engines can find in the news that might be relevant to that particular company. The next thing that we start to bring in is this relationship intelligence. So, you know, who in your organization is best connected to the person you're about to meet. We also bring in activities. So because we're able to we're able to listen to all the activities that are going on in your company on a daily basis. We're able to play back things like emails that have been sent, meetings that have been had. So you can really kind of start to look joined up as a company when you have that intelligence. We can also pull in things that exist in either inside CRM or other ERP tools that you might have. So we can, if the customer you're about to meet is late on billing or has some sort of contractual obligations that are coming up, we can pull all that information in. I'm more than happy to send out something in post the webinar. Love to follow up with you specifically, Roberto. If perhaps I should have been a bit more prepared. I could have shown some examples on here, but I'll try to keep it away from being sort of a product focused webinar.
I think what's great as well is the data that's being pulled. Unlike many businesses that just give CRM licenses to salespeople and the commercial teams, is this can obviously pull data from more of the technical teams. And also, as we all know, it's often, the engineer, the project manager, that's in conversation with the client more than we are as salespeople. And it's really useful to know who in your organization has the relationship. And that may not be another salesperson. It might be, a project manager, for example. So being able to know that just before you go into the meeting, that live time data, you can then obviously get that, build more rapport and have that relatable conversation. And I think that's amazing. I think we've all been the new person in a sales team where you're trying to figure out, who are the clients, who do we know, who do I need to build relationships with, and how do I build rapport quickly? I think having that data at your fingertips going in, it's a great part of onboarding, because you never need to know it all, because you're going to be getting this sent to you kind of live time, which again makes us more efficient. So we've got another question from Yukemi. Yukemi, do you want to come on and ask your question, or do you want me to read it out?
It's fine, I'll ask. Hi, Adam. Really enjoyed
Hello,
that.
Yukemi. Good. Good.
I'm just thinking that you uncover a lot of information about, who's the real influencer within a company, and those relationships and networks that are not obvious when you look at a typical org chart. And I wondered if your findings has led to actual changes within a team or within a sales process, so that the business actually takes into consideration the fact that, this person actually has key relationships, this process maybe doesn't work as well as it should, and have gone on to make changes as a result of your findings.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it has. Some of the customers we speak about, and the customer data that's on the page is not the customer I'm referring to here. One of our largest customers, or our flagship customer, is PwC, and they actually use the data to iron out some wrinkles in their process that they actually weren't aware of. So they have work-winning teams, business development teams that would go and sell, large contracts to companies all over the world. And what they actually find out by looking at our data is that there was this big drop-off in terms of the relationship between when the company had signed the deal to actually the delivery team, who then came in sort of 30, 60 days later to secure that, to kind of deliver and execute on that piece of work. And what they were finding is that the client was left for quite a long period of time really not knowing. They just spent, they'd just written a big check for a large consultancy fee, a large project, and they kind of engagement fell off a cliff because there was this gap. So what they were able to do was realign their process and put a sort of an implementation process in place, so that as soon as that deal was signed, engagement wasn't dropping off, and the customer felt a lot happier, a lot more content, and actually that led down the road to faster net new wins from that customer, because there wasn't this kind of period of drop off and disengagement with the client, which is never good when you just signed a customer. So it really allowed them to become much more customer focused. So that's one way. I think Introhive itself as a company is actually built off its own product. You know, back in the day, and this was before I joined, you know, we had some senior guys who are based in North America who actually used our own sort of understanding of our own network and our own contacts to grow the business to what it is today. And it was actually, you know, many years in before we started buying sort of out external data tools and you know, things, other sort of complementary products like LinkedIn Sales Navigator and the like, because they had those networks, and we were actually, you know, able to unlock them because they found the processes and the introduction referral mechanisms that work for us. So there's a couple of examples there. If that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Adam, there's a few companies on the call that are slightly smaller, and I wonder if you could just touch on, I guess, the use of Introhive if you don't yet have a CRM system embedded in your organization and you're maybe still working from Excel spreadsheets, etc.
Yeah, I think we talk to companies at lots of different stages, and you know, a very common stage is the fact that they don't have a CRM, but they are thinking about implementing CRM. And no matter how big or small your company is, yes, we work with lots of big companies like PwC, KPMG. We also work with lots of small companies. So, you know, we have companies that are, you know, have about 30 to 50 employees. You know, they're fewer and far between. You know, however, the problems with CRM exist at the smaller end of the scale as much as they do at the larger end of the scale. You know, it's about adoption. You know, how do you provide that 360 review? How do you get people to log activities, to log their relationships and their contacts? I think we uncover, for every mailbox that we sit on, we uncover around 350 to 450 contacts on average that should be in CRM that aren't in CRM. So if you extrapolate that, you know, across, you know, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 1,000 employees, that's a significant amount of data that organizations can use to their advantage. So, you know, the problems exist at every size of business. I think, you know, when you're really small team and you're kind of all sat in one office, then, you know, there's certain things that you can do by using spreadsheets, by maintaining it. But really, once you become sort of global, or you have multiple offices, and particularly working remotely, where you have that kind of disparate nature and people that aren't familiar or used to, you know, using CRM systems, we take a lot of that burden away by creating this environment where all you need to do as a salesperson is concentrate on opportunity management. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Can either pop it in the comments or just come on camera or unmute yourself. If anyone's struggling to unmute themselves, just let me know and I can do it. Maybe while we're waiting, Adam, is there anything that I guess you've learned through working in oil and gas so far? Is there any, I guess, trends that you're seeing?
I'm remarkable. I've been.
I got my charger.
I've been amazed by the amount of traction that we've been able to get within the industry in a very short space of time. I think, you know, I think there's a genuine appetite for what we do, and we've seen that across multiple different industries, and I think that it's been really. I guess the last sort of 3-4 months working with you guys has been really insightful for us, and I think there are so many use cases for our service and our solution. Really trying to understand, you know, which one's the sweet spot within certain organisations, and trying to know where to focus is probably one of the challenges that I have as a sales leader.
Yeah, I think in oil and gas as well, because most of the organizations are international, and many of them you know, each region can be focused on a different product or service line. It can be quite difficult to pull all that data together. And I find it a lot when we're working with businesses with international, you know, sales teams, that they haven't got a clue who knows who. And they may be tasked with going into an operator in the Middle East, for example, and don't have really any way other than phoning around the other sales offices to know if somebody's already talking to them. And it can actually come across really unprofessional at the client level, because they can have more than one sales office trying to target them at once, and they're not even aware that they're doing it. So I think it's great at pulling that together.
Yeah, it's a big one, you know, that the joined up thinking, you know, how do we have that visibility? And that's what CRM should be, and it has the power to be. But the stumbling block is a human one. It's, you know, how do you incentivize people to drive, you know, log every activity. You know, CRM inherently asks you to work and then log, and work and then log, and work and then log. And if you you know, I think there's a statistic that says that 34% of a salesperson's time is spent actually selling. You know, and generally the rest of it is built up doing prep, doing admin, doing you know slide building, you know, logging in CRM, you know, preparing for meetings, all these things that actually, you know, you don't have to do in this day and age. We have the technology now to automate a lot of the repetitive processes, and just by working, we are creating the data that companies need to live on. That's the real core of Introhive, and why we've been so.
Neil's asking, is Introhive billed monthly or as a service that can be used as and when required?
So we are we're a SaaS model, so it's a monthly license fee. We charge. We're not tied to CRM, so we charge per mailbox, and it's a monthly fee. I think if you think about the way that you know, relationships are always changing. You know, people move jobs, people you know, get promoted, they leave, they, you know, retire, whatever that might be. And these relationships that you have as to organizations are, you know, ebb and flow, you know, as project work disappears or comes back onto the scene, as you go through the different phases of delivery, those relationships are always changing. So it's about having that continuous visibility of data of what's going on in your business. So yeah, we charge monthly, typical SaaS model.
For the companies we've spoken to so far in the sector, they've been very pleasantly surprised by your pricing. I think they were expecting it to be a lot higher, and like that you charge the same no matter which sector, where some software companies just add a bit of a percentage on when it comes to oil and gas.
Well, that's
transparent.
We're very fair. I think in terms of the value that we bring, not only are we bringing value, you're getting value from the money that you spend with us, but you're also getting an increased return on the money. It's significantly more money that you're spending on CRM usually.
Yeah.
You know,
we're clear to see the return.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Key.
The return is instant, or almost instant, I say. So, you know, we can back mine the data, the data that for the last 12 months, for example, that you've been creating by emailing, by phoning, by booking meetings. We can back mine that data and have it into your CRM within 4 weeks. So you've got the instant ROI from the automation. So your salespeople can be more effective. They're saving time, not having to log stuff from day one. And then within 4 weeks, you'll have like a year's worth of that relationship intelligence and the insight with which you can drive business development and drive your strategy forward with.
We've got any other questions for myself or
Yes,
Adam?
I have a question.
Yes. Hi, Donald.
Hello, Sarah. Hello, Adams. Thank you. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
I want to know, So small sales team, how do you get started when you don't have a CRM? How do you get started? No CRM.
How do you get started with CRM?
How do you get started? Yeah.
How do you get started with CRM? I think you've got to, first and foremost, you have to find the right CRM to start with. And there's lots of factors that you need to take into consideration with CRM. You need to think about where your business is going to be in 12, 15, 18 months time, because you need a system that is going to be able to, scale as you scale and provide you all the information that you need as you scale. And then I think it's about ensuring that investment, because CRM investment is a significant one. It is about ensuring that investment is, you're going to get a return on it. And that's where we come in, because, we can instantly populate it with your digital footprint. We can instantly populate it with that data. And then it's about driving process. PwC, for example, who are our sort of flagship customer, they will never say this publicly or in writing, but they went through 3 failed digital transformations, and it's a story that they stand up and tell with us in our kind of go-to-market strategy, event strategy with them. They went through these kind of 3 failed digital transformations because they didn't get buy-in from top down. They struggled to get people to use and log into the system. And when they did it this time, they did it with Introhive, and we play a small but significant part in that overall transformation. They engaged the leadership. They got CEO right down to the very junior people that kind of bought in. They did things like escape rooms where people of all kind of seniorities were locked in a room, and they couldn't leave until they completed a task within Salesforce. They really drove. They had internal marketing campaigns and teams of people that were responsible for putting these marketing campaigns together, really to drive the fact that the business was changing. This is happening, and really get everybody on board and behind the success of CRM. And Introhive did play a kind of a significant role in that. We automate all the stuff that people don't want to do, so that we can focus, so that people, particularly the salespeople and the revenue earners, do what they're good at, which is selling.
I would agree with Adam. I think it's less about the CRM software, and it's more about that sales culture, the behaviors, and CRM is client relationship management. I think a lot of businesses make the mistake of it just being a sales tool, but actually you need the data coming from anyone that's customer facing. And that's what I love about Introhive, is you can pool that data, but go back, so get some slightly historical data as well. So if you have nothing, but you're a sizable business and you're on Excel spreadsheets, of course there's a way to pool that data over, but there's probably a lot missing if you're working off Excel. So there's ways of pooling that, over into a CRM on day one. And then it's about creating the right culture and processes within the teams to add to that and make it a sustainable effort, not just something that you build on day one. And it's like building a strategy, writing it down and putting it on the bookshelf to get dusty. It needs to be part of everyday life, and it's driven by good behaviors.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Sarah. Thank you for making the point. I think that, and sorry to keep harping on about PwC, it's just a use case that I know so well. They actually trusted us when they launched the software, the CRM, and with Introhive in the UK. When they started off in Canada and had this global rollout program, which has sort of been happening over the last 3 to 5 years, they actually trusted Introhive to pick up all their data. So they had no legacy data that it was imported into CRM, even though they had many customer email addresses and contact cards in Outlook and in Lotus Notes, I think they used. They actually trusted Introhive to kind of pull all that data. And we were able to sort of uncover 100,000 contacts in the first 3 weeks of of going live, just by pulling their existing exchange data.
Yeah, we've got another question, Adam.
Yes.
Derek. So hello, Derek. Thanks for
Hello,
joining.
Derek.
So he said, would Introhive be seen as a bolt-on turbocharger rather than as an addition to an existing CRM?
So yeah, we play very nicely with CRM. Not all CRMs, I'll be honest with you, but we integrate into Salesforce. We integrate into Microsoft Dynamics. We're on our business roadmap. We have a plugin that should, in theory, integrate into anything that's out there. We also have we're about 75–80% of the way there with our integration with Sugar. But we are definitely, if you have a CRM in play, we're definitely we are a bolt-on supercharger. Definitely, you know, customers need to. You know, customers with CRM, they want to get maximum value out of it. They want to, they want to have that. They're already bought into the idea that, you know, that there should be this kind of single source of, you know, customer information. But going back to the problems that we've all spoken about, kind of throughout this, is that how do you get your people to input that data and log that data?
Derek, are you currently using CRM, or am I taking that sort of down the wrong route? Do you mean, can it be standalone as well?
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. No, we're currently using a CRM, so it's a kind of quite a small company, but obviously we're in different locations, so it's having that information across lines, and as Adam had put it earlier on, yeah, it's getting people to do the function, then log things in CRM is most of the battle, you know. So if there's something there that can help integrate it and sort of make it seamless, then it does seem that it's a, you know, pretty good idea. We're using Zoho at the moment.
Okay.
So it's
we have a
Zoho, or the paid version.
It's the paid version. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a customer in Hong Kong who uses Zoho, and what they use Introhive, and what they do is they bulk upload our data, because you can pull our data out of the Introhive, and sort of if with one of our sort of analytics tools, you can map the relevant fields, and you can bulk upload that data into Zoho, which is what they're choosing to do. And as I say, yeah, we'll have a plugin hopefully by the end of this year for all CRMs. But I think yeah, process. If you can drive home and try and incentivize the process, that's going to help you out in the long run. Adoption's so hard, and it's a problem with all technology. It's not just CRM.
No, I mean it is quite a small team, so it is trying to make sure that is done at this stage, and how that moves forward, and it's something to move forward with, you know. So like you say, it's setting the rules for that process is at right now.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key. And incentivizing behavior as well. I think, you know, that's one of the things, you know, obviously, you know, salespeople are incentivized on getting orders signed at the end of the day. But, you know, there's certain things that you can do. So, you know, Salesforce are very good at this. They incentivize their staff, provided that their CRM hygiene is, you know, 85–90% as to what it should be or what they expect. Really, really, really important, and is a great start. Sounds like would be a great start for someone in your position.
I think if you can drive the behaviors and also, like say, process, so that, you know, everything they're doing is process driven, but they believe in why that's there, rather than just, you know, setting the rules. The great thing about Introhive, I think, is because a lot of salespeople feel that they put a lot of time and effort, and even being incentivized by money or, you know, targets, that's one thing. But if they can really buy in that they're going to get added value in their role from the system, it's much easier to get the buy-in from them, because you're making them more efficient. And if their job's easier, they can get more done and they're more likely to hit quota and spend time nurturing the relationships rather than, you know, just inputting data.
Right. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Adam.
No problem. I think just on that before we finish as well, there's definitely you know, the value of understanding those relationships is key, and that can be done outside of CRM. You know, it's where's your, you know, think about where your next deal is coming from. You know, how do you maximize you know, revenue potential from your existing client base? You know, to have that visibility and understanding of those relationships, I think is key, and that is something that is standalone. Right, yes, we plug into CRMs, but we are a standalone solution as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there any other questions?
Yes, I've got a question.
Here we go. Hello.
One last one, yeah. So thank you so much. Hello, can we hear me?
Yes,
yeah, we can hear you.
Donald.
Okay, yeah. So obviously you have a lot of experience with sales, marketing, etc. I want to know, because with everybody working remotely right now, between phone calls and emails, which one is better in closing right now? Because you can't obviously go visit people, you know, in your companies. So which one is best for closing?
Closing business.
Closing deals.
So actually, I'm a big believer in phone and face to face. But actually, the number one indicator for forecasting in terms of whether or not a deal is going to close is actually email velocity. So there are some things that we're, as a company, that are on our roadmap that we're starting to talk about, which is sales intelligence and sales effectiveness, and how do you use the data that is coming through our system in order to be able to forecast more effectively, drive better behavior from salespeople, start to make recommended next best actions. You know, we map your data across lots of opportunities, and so we start to know what good looks like, particularly in your world. So that's really exciting, actually, from an Introhive, and certainly from my perspective, sort of sat in a sales chair. But I'm a huge believer in phone and old school methods. But actually, the data would suggest that email velocity is the best indicator of whether or not the deal will close.
Thank you so much.
I agree with Adam. I am a great believer, and Yukemi and any of my team would tell you this, that I'm all about picking up the phone and getting face to face with people. Emails have their place, and they're fantastic to back up what's being said over the phone. But I think, you know, somebody's going to buy from you, you know, that conversation, you know, is going to happen face, or at least on a phone call. We're so lucky in this day and age that we have technology such as Zoom that we can get face to face, and I think it just helps build that rapport. You can read body language, you can read so many signals from your buyer face to face that is really difficult to do on a phone call, and even more so in emails. I'm sure we've all had emails or we've sent emails before that when we read them back, we go, that is not how I meant to sound. You've got to be so careful with written language that you are coming across the way you would face to face, and that takes that skill. So I think the safest way for all of us is to get face to face on a call like this, in my opinion. But I know lots of people that absolutely hate it and will do anything to avoid it and prefer to stay on email. So it's, I guess, a little bit of personal preference there as well. So hopefully that's helped to answer your question, Donald. We've got 2 comments, Adam. Yukemi has said, your tool can help sales and marketing have a more joined up relationship around the marketing and sales of a new product. What are some of the best practices that you've seen and heard from a client using Introhive?
Oh, in terms, so how do we create more of a joined up approach between sales and marketing? Interesting, good question, Yukemi. Thank you very much. And this is completely on the spot for everybody else that's listening on this webinar. So I think the ability to have, so we uncover data, right? So that supports marketing. So marketeers building, you know, lists for email campaigns, driving engagement through webinars. We help drive, full and complete data sets within CRM, or, you can pull our data and use, connect our data to, MailChimp, or however you choose to do your sort of marketing communications. So that's the first thing. I think the relationship intelligence is how we're using our tool and the data that we have in our CRM system is driving the ABM strategy that is delivering us results and enabling us to sort of still grow our pipeline right now. And what you have is that joined up approach where marketing has visibility into our key accounts and our target lists. They're able to pepper our target lists with content, with webinar invites, with ABM. It might be, some corporate gifting or something like that. And at the same time, my sales development team are driving, cold outreach, trying to point out use cases, value propositions, trying to get on the phone with the very same people that we're targeting from an MBM and a marketing strategy, marketing campaign. So all of a sudden you have this complete joined up 360-degree approach between sales and marketing where, not only are we getting the push from marketing and people are coming to our website and looking at us and saying, hey, we should be talking. We're pulling them through from a sales perspective, but we're pulling an open door because they should, in theory, if we get our process right, already have read some of our content, have an idea and understanding of what we are and how we do it. So that's actually working for us right now and actually driving results in this time. So it's that's a fairly decent example. It's not a client, but it's there are lots of clients doing this as well.
Can you unmute you, Cami? Are you wanting to come on to comment?
No, it's great because this research shows that sales and marketing are often not aligned, and the bigger the company, the worse the problem is. So I see a huge opportunity for businesses to, just like you said, make sure that as sales is going out, speaking to people, that marketing is almost that kind of wind under the wings of the salespeople. And your tool looks like a tool that makes sure that those contacts and relationships that are in the company, that are in one place, and everyone's kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, as they say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great to hear your example, and great to hear that you're practicing what you preach as well at Introhive. So you're the best example you could have given, really, Adam.
Yeah, no, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. It's not great at the moment, but we've signed 5 or 6 deals in the last 2 weeks. So some businesses are pushing. Obviously, they've just got freeze on capex. Other businesses are in know they need to do something in order to be able to communicate effectively, in order to kind of drive revenue, during these times. And we're actually seeing acceleration of some of our sales cycles. So yeah. So we're not in a bad spot. We're not probably doing as well as Uber Eats.
No, I don't think anyone is. Thanks, Cami. Okay, so I don't think there's any more questions. I think we will draw it to a close. So I just want to say a massive thank you to you, Adam, for joining us. I think
pleasure was all mine.
Value to the participants. For anyone that's still here, we have recorded this webinar and we'll share the link on LinkedIn. It will be within our Doqaru app. If you haven't downloaded that already, it's free to download. You'll find it on both Apple and Google stores. And all of our past webinars are also sitting in there, as well as some guest webinars. So yeah, if Adam, I don't know if you want to just hit the contact slide, but if you want to get in touch with Adam, please feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn. There we go. And his email address is there.
Yeah, happy to sit and talk and discuss anything to do with sales and strategy. And I'm a bit of a sales nerd, so if you want to sit and just chew the fat in general, more than happy to sort of share some time with you.
I was going to say, Adam's hair is usually much shorter than this.
Yeah,
so they might not recognise you if they meet you Adam. You've had a haircut. Sorry, I have to put that in.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, no, I refuse to let my wife touch my hair in this current situation. So it is a bit bigger than usual. But you gave me a chance to put on a shirt, which I haven't worn for.
Yeah, that's true. When was the last time you had a shirt on?
I reckon it was Doqaru Con.
Okay, yeah. So about 6 weeks ago now.
Yeah, probably.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you got the opportunity. Okay.
I'm definitely wearing trousers.
Yeah. If you want to just hit to the next slide.
Yeah.
And just close off. So for anyone that wants to know more about Doqaru or get in touch with us, if you are wanting to implement CRM or look at ways to, I guess, build more process into what you're doing, please email, either connect with Yukami and I on LinkedIn if you're not already, or you can email us at info@doqaru.com. And today, you know, Doqaru covers everything you can see in front of you on the wheel, but the main parts of our framework, I guess, we've discussed today is strategy, process, and relationships, and really key on that relationships part, which drives a lot of the work we do. And hence the partnership with Introhive. So thanks again, Adam, and thank you to Introhive for supporting. And thank you to everyone for attending. Like I said, we will be sharing the recording. So if you want to send it to anyone else you think would be interested or share with colleagues, then feel free. And I hope you all have a great week. We'll close it off there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Adams.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Adam.